top on this one. Brunch, take it away.
And hello everyone, this time around it will be just little me solo casting for now as the round will start. And pretty far forward hold, Sonic Arrow did come out, scouting out the opposition for a bit. Ajax, interestingly enough, does go for the Ana once again, and I'm not too surprised considering the fact that both him and Dummy had quite a lot of success on it. Kevster will look to contest Capo, both with those Widowmakers so far. No one really winning out per se, but Kayuna on that Bastion's gonna look to bust through the defensive side with those barriers already being destroyed, putting a lot of pressure onto the opposition. Kevster looking for angles, but will be shielded by those shields for coming out of Orisa. But as I say that, Capo does manage to find his head, and with those two opening kills, this is looking like Savages should be able to clean up. Kayun finds another as he gets a triple kill off of the Bastion, and the Riptire does find Ace of Spades, but it is looking like it's not going to be quite enough. Reach will get absolutely destroyed, and already with 5 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, they'll have a lot of time and set time back, a lot of ultimates being built up as well. And on the other side, some swaps coming in here for last night's leftovers. I'll be looking to set up on that high ground, Mr. Shirley. Of course, Reach having used that Riptire will look to charge it up as soon as possible. Kevster will look to contest, but Capo already once again has just been so lethal on that Widowmaker as the hook is going to make Decod's life miserable as the kill will be secured in the end. Kevster still looking to get something done off of the high ground. However, Derek's going to manage to find the D-suit as N64 will go down, and these staggered kills here coming onto last night's leftovers are just so bad for them because payload being so close to that checkpoint, can't really see how they can test, especially with that tank configuration being also available for Kayun. Gonna be one potential last-ditch effort. Reach trying to go down. Maybe it is going to be Kevster, so I like this positioning instead. But with that tank configuration, it's still gonna be Huey taking the first kill, and it's overall Savage is just steamrolling on Junkertown. Last night's leftovers nowhere to be seen in terms of retaliation. No team fight win for them so far. At the very least, though, Infrared side will still spot out the opposition. We'll see the Riptire potentially finally turn things around for L and Nell. But again, just seemingly unable to do anything. We'll see whether or not this one coming out of Reach will manage to find any kills, but already being spotted. It's gonna be Capo sniping it out. Good job on that front as Decod once again is gonna be dropping really low. Bubble instantly disintegrated. So much damage coming out on top, but now self-destruct is gonna come out, pushing that nano-boosted Winston, and now with the pulse bomb connecting onto Kayun, self-destruct even securing the kill on the Ace of Spades. Capo still finds Kevster in that engage, but with a 2v1, it is going to be finally last night's leftovers. Get things started here on the defensive side, and Dummy good to go with the Transcendence. Means that Kayun going down on that Bastion will make the swap eventually to the Lucio. Moving forward, we might just see most of this lineup also swap to something more of a dive comp overall. As Reach also looking to retaliate with a Genji of his own. That Supercharger coming out is not going to be too successful, maybe, but as I say that, N64 is taken down rather. And now Transcendence will be used by Dummy, but is it going to be enough? Coalescence might just keep Ace of Spades safe. No, he will go down in the end, but so does Ajax. And still looking for those kills. It means that Decod is going to go down. Overall, I got to say Capo just uncontested. Whenever Kevster tries to get back right at him, just overall looks like gets taken down, sniped out, or just found by the hook coming out of Derek, who has been a threat on that Roadhog for sure. Moving pretty forward, will be discorded. As a result, now forced to regroup. Does have the whole hog at the ready. Nothing in terms of the ultimates good to go on the other side. And as a result, things might be looking really bad. Whole hog was used by the pulse bomb. Ooh, drops them pretty low. Self-destruct will be used. Ace of Spades somehow kept alive though. And now's the hook. Once again, we'll look for the Genji. He's gonna manage to stay alive, but Decod falls in return. Self-destruct Once again, he's gonna look to displace. Gets a target though onto Capo, and as a result, still an all-out brawl on the point. But can the Savages somehow secure this point? Seems like they're still gonna look to do just so. Ajax will pop that sound barrier, and Decod now coming back from spawn. Gonna make things difficult, but Coalescence at the ready. They're gonna push them away. Capo making the swap over to the Tracer himself. Still look for success, but Reach popping the blade is gonna get a kill onto Kayun. Can he get more? Dummy is gonna be the one to get one onto Hui, but finally, once again, it will be last night's leftovers winning out in terms of team fight, pushing them away, but they did commit the blade for it. And with these late kills, I would expect to see some further swaps coming out of Savages, but not quite this one in particular, as it's going to be the Mercy here for Kayun. And even the Soldiers for Kappa, so interesting choices. Maybe we'll look to set up that Soldier on the high ground or somewhere far behind. Maybe with the damage boost, we'll look to do a lot of it. Plasma Snake finds N64. On the rest of his team, we'll look to contest at high ground. Kevster hunted down by the Diva, will be himself going down in the end, but the blade is ready for Reach. Can he find the targets? With the help of the Tristan, it's gonna come too late. The timing coming out of Dummy, not quite there. Derek getting the kill off of the whole hog, will look for more as he gets a hook. Is hit by the Discord, and as his ult forced to regroup with the rest of his team. But still, Ace of Spades once again delivering on this Orisa pick. We'll find you, but Kevster coming back with the pulse bomb, sticks it to Kayun. But will be Plasma Snake still having that healing potentially? Doesn't seem like it's quite enough, as he still gets a con to Reach, but Hui will eventually be desuited as he looks to regroup. And once more, with 60 seconds remaining, last night's leftovers get another good defensive hold. Most of these North American teams seems to really have a good time when it comes to that last checkpoint on Jokertown. They also have the sound barrier good to go, which should stall things for quite a while. So it's gonna come down to whether or not Plasma Snake can really stay alive long enough so both of those support ultimates are not really staggered, or rather are staggered and not overlap. As the self-destruct is gonna come out, Ace of Spades already goes down, but Capo looking to do a lot of work with that attack visor. Will manage to find one onto Decod, so is it going to be enough? As now the self-destruct will be used by the defensive side, and then 64 somehow gets the kill, as was the DC. The Resurrect is gonna come out, but doesn't seem like it's enough, as Kevster and Reach still cleaning up house with that duo dive. Sound barrier as well as the blade now just for that extra safety. Reach has definitely been a menace on that Genji, and eventually last night's leftovers will be able to hold.
Score 0-2. Switching sides.
A lot of distance covered for the side of the Savages at the start. Unfortunately for them, with those swaps, not quite able to also deliver when it comes to that last checkpoint. Well played by last night's leftovers to make the adaptation, to make the swaps in order to turn things around at the end. And while yes, the Savages did have a really good time on those first 2 points, managing to snowball things in their favor, was overall impressed by Capo's performance on that Widowmaker, as he's been really consistent on that DPS role. Whatever he's been picking, overall, it's been performing. And on the other side, of course, Reach having a good time on the Genji compared to anything else he's had to play. And I'm curious to see whether or not Bastion will be the name of the game for last night's leftovers. On the defensive side, though, will be Derek on the Junkrat himself. Capo once more on the Widowmaker. We'll see whether or not Reach is gonna have his shot at that revenge for that 1v1 Widowmaker duel. But having that Mercy on the offensive side, even if he gets taken down, could be brought back up real quick. And with the Mercy in play, Dami's still sticking to the Zenyatta as well, so
4, 3, 2,
interesting differences coming out here from the offensive side and their composition respectively.
the payload.
No Bastion for now. Kester looking to actually stick to the Hanzo as well. Reach though does get said when opening things up with that first blood. No Mercy on the defensive side means that he's going to be down and out for a while, and things are already looking good for the offensive team, especially since with Reach now having that advantage, looks to put a lot of pressure on the position. We though still looking for those hooks, still looking to get anything done in return, but it's gonna be Kevster with a good kill onto Kayun as Reach gets another, this time around of the Ace of Spades. And just like that, I just can't see how Savages can do anything here now that Kevster finds another one. It's been actually really good when it comes to landing those shots with that Hanzo. Has the Dragon Strike at the ready, so curious to see how the defensive side will look to position themselves on that high ground, because that Dragon Strike can really make things difficult for them. Already an offensive, far forward approach for last night's leftovers. The answer coming from the other side will be the dive, so I do like these swaps respectively. And already the Dragon Strike, as said, is gonna find one onto Kayun. Kevster being able to do a lot of damage, but the dive is gonna commence. However, it's not gonna quite matter as Kevster gets a second. Dummy even finding one kill onto Reach. Make that a second, as once more it's gonna be the Savages this time around having a good time on their offensive push. Both teams really struggling when it comes to having a good defensive hold, beat on the first or second phase. It's not over quite just yet, however, as we might see them still contest before they reach that checkpoint. 3 meters though, it's gonna be awfully close. They decide, you know what, play it safe, look to regroup, look to have even better time on our defensive round, and might just be back off of Plasma Snake's Sombra. We've seen how all these different teams in the NA scene has been really effective when it comes to playing around said pick, and now as Derek claims one onto Kevster, Reach gets another one onto Copper, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. Of course, we might just see the Resurrect come through. Kevster will look to stick to the Hanzo as he's close to the Dragon Strike, and just look at this. It's been really brutal for the Savages as 5 ultimates at the ready soon for them. Will look to solidify their hold here. Derek drops really, really low. And Plasmatic does get the EMP off. Secures the count to Dummy, and can they clean things up? So far looking likely. Dragon Strike committed. Definitely not too surprising. I would like to see Decod and Kevster swap it around, and that's most likely why they committed those ultimates. Considering that they have 4 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, they want to make sure they swap as soon as possible. Don't waste any time whatsoever. Ace of Spades very sneaky on that Winston. Won't be able to not quite find any targets, but disengage for now. Kayun though gets spotted, goes down with the sound barrier, so not quite what they wanted, as the blade is going to come out alongside the EMP. And they need to secure this team fight because that's quite a bit committed. Now with the self-destruct too. Hui does find one kill onto Kevster. And Kayun will have enough time to come back from spawn. The pulse bomb is gonna go ahead and stick onto the mech, getting the D-suit. Nothing really outside of that achieved, but on the other side, Derek looking to build his blade, and with this prolonged fight, you're really just giving up that advantage here if you're the defensive side of last night's, of rather the Savages. But now, with the EMP once again available, we'll see whether or not Savages can get something done, but no, it's going to be all about last night's leftovers as they find the kills. As a result, they find themselves with quite a lot of distance covered on that payload. And the problem for the defensive side here of Savages is the fact that they committed most of their ultimates and didn't really gain anything for it. Strong team fights, as said, really making sure that the defensive side gets an advantage overall. Ajax popping that sound barrier is going to be able to find free kills for his team, and even though self-destruct is going to be used, it finds one kill in the end onto Ajax, but it's looking like this is going to be it. Last night's leftovers cleaning up house, and as a result, they take a pretty convincing fight in the end and the win on Junkertown.
Play of the game.
And Kevster, gotta give it to his Hanzo. Been pretty successful in those first two phases and really well played by Savages, but even more so by this lineup of last night's leftovers. And with this, we're gonna move on to an ad break, but we'll be right back with Horizon.
We are back at the analysis desk. This was a bit weird to see, to say the least, that Savages, they started off great. They came onto the last point. They had like 5 minutes 30, I believe, and they were unable to finish the last point. On the other hand, last night's leftovers in the same position. Kivster going really great on Hanzo, and then they just came on the last point, had better ultimate management, and just finished it off.
Well, it just comes down to exactly that, better ultimate management, and that's just so crucial when it comes to getting that third objective. And overall, I gotta say, the consistency, which was a bit lacking before, we talked about how that was apparently the weakest part about last night's leftovers, has definitely been improved a lot with what we've seen so far at the very least, and their adaptation was just overall better and quicker.
Yeah, I mean, judging how Savages opened the match, I thought this would be a quick 1-0 for them, but I was wrong. So now we are going to go to Horizon Lunar Colony. We've seen Savages play it, and they're pretty good in this map.
most definitely. But considering once again that they were a bit slower when it comes to adaptation, a bit worse when it comes to resource management with those ultimates, I would still look to favor last night's leftovers in this matchup.
Well, we do know that the Savages almost never go without a fight, as we've seen in the previous series, so I'm
Sure.
expecting them to take this one and potentially take us to the control map. Now, Brunch, you're solo casting again. Take it away.
And once again, welcome back. This time around on Horizon. Defensive side will be of last night's leftovers with Kevster, Decod, and 64. Ajax reach dummy. Ajax once again on that Ana. We'll be curious to see whether or not it will be dummy seeing some Ana play later. As on the offensive side of Savages, Kiyuna, Hui, Derek, Capo, Plasma Snake, and Ace of Spades with a triple tank and the Widowmakers. So this is something they've played before. Two mixed results. I wasn't too impressed, but Kevster already claiming a kill off of the Bionate. Very good press, very impressive rather hit off of it. As
should be able to hear me now, right?
Okay, yes, indeed. Welcome, Hurix. Good to hear you again.
All right, definitely excited to jump in here. And now starting off on Horizon Lunar Colony, for me at least, obviously everybody got to witness Junkertown. Last night's leftovers taking that one, but we got that high ground hold coming in from last night's leftovers right now. Dummy and Ajax up top. Again, that Zenyatta Ana back in the mix for them.
And so far, not really too successful when it comes to their positioning and really enabling Kappa to also find those line of sights, but now dropping down. Life thing's pretty difficult for the defensive side as Decod still managing to find a kill on Ace of Spades. It will be Kevster claiming a second, this time around the Plasma Snake, but Capo finally answers with a double kill of his own. So, see whether or not this will be enough as some of those members, some of those support members especially for Savages here dropping means that they will be forced to regroup for now, but if they can really deny this lineup of LNL to regroup, Mike can still potentially get that point.
Something I'm looking at right now, last night's leftovers, Reach coming back. Having that Riptire available, as they're going to get aggressive, the Riptire will come out. We see both support outs again coming from Ajax and Dummy trying to win this fight. So if they're not able to secure this quickly, they'll easily lose momentum, not only on this fight, but perhaps into the next one as well if it goes to point B.
As the airshare is going to come out, actually connecting, and with that, Ace of Spades once again showing us why he's been so strong on that tank, rather on that main tank role, and with that, it will be indeed Savages claiming a team kill as well as that first objective, and we'll already see a couple of swaps on both sides. Capo looking to go on the soldier instead. I definitely like this more as overall it should be an easier time when it comes to capitalizing off of that potential high ground. And on the defensive side, Decod having the supercharger at the ready. We'll see him still on the Orisa, and now straight ahead going to use it, looking to see whether or not they're going to be able to regroup. No, it's going to be Decod claiming Ace of Spades, and at the very least, Derek, if he can keep being charged up, considering the fact he has that Graviton, it might just be looking really good going forward here.
Certainly a trend I've seen from last night's leftovers is stacking a lot of ultimates and not being able to pull fights out still. So now into this next fight, you know, we talked about some of the ults already, you know, having Derek making that swap over to the soldier. It's going to be very difficult for last night's leftovers to be able to win this one out because they committed so much on point A and still didn't get that fight.
Oh, but the Bionade shutting down Ace of Spades secures that particular kill, but the Graviton coming out, can it secure even more? Hui picking up a double kill of his own as they look to potentially clean the point up, already getting close to that second tick, eventually getting it as well, and just like that, with 4 minutes and 39 seconds, Dummy finally answers, but nobody is going to be able to make it back in time, as Dummy, desperate attempt coming out of him will not be quite enough, and Savages opening up big time here on Horizon.
Last night's leftovers, just gotta work on that ult efficiency a little bit. You know, you don't want to have any of those kind of things happening where, you know, you're committing 3, 4, 5 ults, whatever it might be, and not being able to win fights, especially when they're, you know, you're going up against maybe 2 from the opposition. So, you know, the only ults I saw them holding on to were Kevster and Decod, but only because they didn't have them available. I'm sure they would have committed those had they had them as well, and maybe the fight would have looked different if that was the case. But still, they handily lost that fight after committing 4 on the first point, and then it's very hard to kind of, get back into it until you get your ults back up and you can start, getting a foothold once again. And after they took that first fight, utilizing the bongos from Decod, they just didn't have anything else after that. So, it's just a situation where it becomes almost unwinnable in that case, especially when you have a team like the Savages, who are certainly very capable in their own regard as well. But now we see them going on defense, and we don't actually have a Junkrat brunch. It's actually Derek going on the McCree instead, and we'll see Capo on a Tracer. So no Junkrat defense here with this type of lineup. What do you make of this?
It's gonna be interesting. It may be them expecting Dummy to stick to that Zenyatta as well. Will make things really difficult for him with Capo just lying in wait in those flank lines. But on the other side, it seems like they might just go for some sort of a dive comp as well. Maybe just have reach on that Widowmaker. And with this counter dive potentially coming out of the defensive side for the Savages, it might just pay off.
Ace of Spades holding up top, seeing the dive come out once again with reach on the Widow. He's going to be looking for these crosses. Is Plasma Snake going to get hit, but they won't find a kill, at least not initially. And still, Plasma Snake taking a lot of damage. Reach has yet to find the pick, but he's gotten them dangerously low, and that will present an opportunity if he can get one of those kind of things again for Reach to create an opening for the rest of the team to jump in. Last night's leftovers as a dive can easily engage on that, and it's Reach to fall first.
Plasma Snake retaliates, finds him in the end, and as a result with the 6v5, I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to look to contest that high ground once again here for the Savages, as so far it's still Decod and N64 lying in wait on that particular point. Decod now caught off guard by Ace of Spades, means that it will go down, and once again, Savages finding these important picks really makes things difficult for last night's leftovers.
Capo also just kind of creating a ruckus, pulling some of that aggression from Kevster, because they have to take the duel, or else, we're going to be seeing Capo just poking more and more at their side. So we're going to be seeing the Tracer duel a lot in this matchup, I would say, at least on this first point. And it seems like Capo does force his recall out early, but now it's for both of them, and a lot of aggression over to Derek, as Derek and Kalyun both go down.
And Ace of Spades as well with the help of that pulse bomb. Hui looking to still make things a little bit better for his team, looking to potentially stall things around. It's gonna be all about last night's leftovers now. Reach with that Junkrat able to find those mime kills, and the last one onto Capo. And as a result, they will be getting that first point in the end. Quite a few ultimates, but so is the case for the Savages as well, with Valk up and ready for Kayoon. Seems like he's going to be sticking to that particular hero, whereas Derek now will make the swap over to the Genji instead.
So he's going to be pulling everything up, but they're still running this Mercy now, who's up on high ground, and as they dive through, they're not putting pressure on the Mercy just yet. But that's going to be the Valk coming out now from Kalyun, as Hui needs to go ahead and start putting some pressure onto these front lines. He's going to drop out of his mech, and as he does, perhaps... Oh, he didn't ult to get his mech back.
Oh, and now we'll see, as a result, this offensive side of LNL being pushed back. Capo potentially looking to get a few staggered kills. Derek will claim that one in the end, and all these kills are very important because it adds in terms of lost time. And already at 5 minutes, having 5 ultimates good to go at the very least for last night's leftovers. They should be able to find something, a few ticks at the very least on this point.
This is where I'm kind of worried for the Savages right now, because they still have their D.Va without a mech, so they have no protection from that hard dive, as Kalyun will fall. Reach will then get another onto Ace of Spades. That D.Va wouldn't have protected much in that regard, but still not having that initial kind of defense matrix help and assistance might have hurt them a little bit there.
Derek trades with a kill onto Reach, and Hui claims another one to N64, and overall, the defensive side, of course, favored heavily in terms of the respawns. Means that they will be able to find the kills eventually, and no ticks achieved for this side of last night's leftovers, more importantly. And as a result, we'll see a couple of swaps happen. Reach respectively with that soldier himself. On the other side, Blade good to go for Derek.
Reach on the soldier here. I mean, I feel like this is probably their best bet. And allowing Kevster to try to find something with the pulse bomb early, that'll open it up for them on the objective. Maybe if you can take down an Ace of Spades, that'll just be all the space that they need to try to put some pressure on that backline finally. And here's the Blade from Derek.
And it finds one kill onto Reach with the help of his teammates, but Plasma Snake does go down, as well as himself in that Genji. And now, all of a sudden, can they still turn it around? As we'll see, Last Night's leftovers drop onto the point, look for the D-suit, gets it on to Hui, but Primal Rage coming out of the other side. Kayun claims another kill, but it's still overall favoring the offensive side now. Dummy going ahead, using his Transcendence, making sure the rest of his team stays safe for an extended period of time. Pulse Bomb doesn't quite find its mark, as N64 and Reach still getting those kills, but no ticks still achieved for this team. Now looking to get something done will be those staggered kills, and maybe they can snowball this all the way, as Hui is gonna get discorded and instantly loses that mech. Means that we might get really close to that second tick. Ace of Spades will fall. Plasma Snake, though, coming back from spawn, will have their Transcendence. Tag Visors now used, so they should be looking to close this one out here.
They are going to be able to find a couple more kills. It's taking them quite a long time, as they were able to stagger in a little bit here and there. The Savages do lose Hui, though, but they still have Ace of Spades on the point. Cap will make the substitution, tag himself in as he goes back in, blinks, and that should be that. But Derek, the Swift Strike comes back in as well. They peel about an extra minute off the clock, Brunch, and now time bank-wise, they're down over 2 minutes, but they're still alive for now. We've seen it from Envision earlier on in the group stage, where, you know, down on this particular map in Time Bank, you can still turn this around. It's still winnable. There's still hope to try to close this series out here. But as we see them attack again, we'll have to see if they swap anything up. It took them quite a long time, I guess, to, you know, pop open that first point. We saw some impressive stuff from Ace of Spades, particularly when he was on the Orisa, kind of just taking those picks. That initial pick onto D-Cod was nice to see as well.
But some swaps coming in on the side, as Kiyun will be on the Lucy instead. Derek himself on the Genji, so they're gonna go ahead and commit for the full dive. And not quite sure if it's gonna pay off, as their previous strategy, as said, definitely Ace of Spades being really dangerous on that Orisa respectively. Derek, not quite as successful on the McCree himself, made at the very least things a little bit more difficult for the offensive side, and I'm curious to see whether or not Reach will try his hand at that Widowmaker again.
As I'm looking at it right now, we're seeing, I guess, a kind of standard dive style from the Savages. Hui back on the Diva, and it's Derek and Capo that I'm looking at for Genji and Tracer respectively. They're going to put some pressure onto that backline. Ajax, Dummy, Reach, ideally if they can, but already jumping right on top of the tanks instead. They find the first kill on the Dummy.
But one to turn onto Ace of Spades. However, Capo claiming the second kill. And this time around, both supports going out here for LNL means that it will be the Savages eventually winning it out, but Reach does get another kill of his own onto Capo, who should have an easy time walking back towards the spawn. And as a result, really nice approach coming in from the defensive side for Savages. Instantly calling out those targets, making sure Dummy doesn't have any time to really stay alive. And as a result, the rest of the team for Savages will be able to regroup.
Right here, if you prioritize the supports one more time, you can actually take their ultimates right out of the equation. Like, they won't have them, and that will be very important going on later, as Plasma Snake and Kalyun have both been involved throughout this entire defense so far. Hui taking some damage, going to be healed up, but Plasma Snake will fall.
And Dummy is going to drop really low himself, so both Zenyatta's traded around, but Kayun is going to die as well. And as a result, Ace of Spades will fall, and I will see most likely LNL winning out on this one, as the staying power of Coalescent without the lack of healing or frontline members means that they will get the point eventually, and with 54 seconds left on the clock for now.
Now we'll see Ajax pull back, get his support friend, the duo, back into it. Ajax Dummy coming forward with the rest of the team. Last night's leftovers now have 1 minute and 10 seconds to cap out as much as they can. Hopefully for them, it's all of it on this second objective to try to take it right here and right now. They have a lot of ults stacking up. As Ajax getting close now, Dummy will have to go ahead and try to lend some damage here, put some pressure out onto this Genji.
And momentum's in their favor as they're gonna look to get a kill onto Plasma Snake. However, it's gonna be Derek dropping down. Self-destruct used from the defensive, or at the offensive side, is gonna secure 2 kills and 64. Popping off on the Diva for now. It's gonna be kill feed, all in favor of LNL. Dummy claims another. Transcendence will be used. Blade is gonna come out. Even the Bastion coming out of play. Is it going to be quite enough as Reach finds 2 more kills? Hui coming back from spawn will get something done too, and maybe they can still retaliate, especially with Combo with the Pulse Bomb. Finds 2 big kills and no ticks achieved for LNL.
And now they have N64, their Diva player, on a Bastion at the moment, so they're not going to have that protection for Decod. They don't have the backup of those support ultimates. They gave up control to the defending team, so now as they come back in, they're going to have to do this without that extra layer of protection of the defense matrix, and instead with a Bastion who could be vulnerable here as well.
And it's gonna be Kappa getting the first kill of the team fight. All things are already looking stellar for Savages. But as I say that, the Tech Buzzer is available. Reach looking for the targets, gets the desuited Diva. Will look to get another one onto Kayun. With the help of Dummy, eventually Kappa will be going down, but the pulse bomb is gonna come out of Kevster too. Onto Derek who made the swap, and with this team kill, they will actually get it through overtime.
And overtime, since they have control of the point, you see those massive respawn timers coming out. So they do wind up capping both. And this is exactly what I was talking about. You know, you're never down and out with a map like this on 2CP, especially Horizon, where, you know, it's very momentum heavy. You can see teams really kind of going from point A and just taking it on point B almost immediately. So now defending 4.5 minutes and obviously 30 seconds added if they do take point A. So, you know, could be about 5 minutes to work with if they actually do cap that first point to try to match that score, try to get 2 more points on the board for themselves and, you know, take this series even further along. But now we actually do see Reach back on the Junkrat here, and it looks like a 3-tank lineup for the Savages as they're looking to attack, and Capo's gonna be back on the Tracer once again.
So it's gonna be Tracer instead of that Widowmaker, which we did see before. And this is the interesting thing about Savages. They seem to really favor those triple tank comps sometimes, but have Capo rotating for different heroes, be it Widowmaker, Tracer, sometimes also the Reaper. Seen plenty of on the likes of Anubis. So curious to see whether or not this is gonna pay off. Of course, Dummy's gonna be under a lot of pressure potentially, but with the likes of Ajax, if he can land those big Bionades again, it's gonna make things difficult for them.
Capo just searching everything out, seeing if everybody is actually up there. Now everybody's accounted for, but Capo takes some early pressure, and so does Kalyun as Reach finds the opening kill. Last night's leftovers will be slowing down the pace of the Savages' attack at the moment. They can't go in without that Lucio. They need that speed.
And as a result, we'll see the rest of LNL look forward to building up as many ultimates as possible in terms of those advantages and resources, but now that they will be able to regroup, we'll still see Kappa off on the side, and Dummy's gonna be the first one to go down, but Kevster retaliates with 1 kill of his own, and both supports are down and out. Means that Reach is gonna get Ace of Spades in the end, and this should be eventually LNL cleaning things up as Reach gets a triple of his own and does have that Riptire at the ready to boot.
Dummy died off, so all of that healing went to Ajax. He's now pretty close to his nano boost, and you have to wonder who he wants to go ahead and put that on. There's a lot of options. They could also just use it to boost someone up to try to get their ultimate even faster. You know, that's certainly a possibility as well. Reach gonna go with the Riptire.
Oh no!
Swinging it around back. Ace of Spades fell already, so this tire is just gonna be the nail in the coffin.
That was unfortunate. Ace of Spades have been commanding his play throughout the previous series and even through tonight, but that was unlucky as Kevster is going to manage to find one after Kayun. He charged off onto the moon, and they will have quite a lot of time lost right now, and as a result, things are not looking too hot. Of course, at the very least, the Nano Boost will look to find its mark on most likely Decod, I would expect. That seems to be the prime target for Ajax, and most of his team fights, just making sure he stays alive as well. And so far, a different approach towards that point. Capo even making the swap himself to the Widowmaker.
I mean, there's still the opportunity to put it on N64, especially if he gets a whole hog. So I'm curious to see who they want to put it on. And they're going to likely hold it for some time, but there it goes. It is onto Decod indeed, and he's holding on, but he actually dies off. N64 is going to be the only person who can push onto this point now, and I don't know if he can even do it.
And with Kappa taking the opposing Widowmaker out of the picture so quick, means that he should have an easy time cleaning up the rest of his team, and it will be with 1 minute and 57 seconds left. Savages claiming the second point, and they've been looking strong on these assault maps, and if they can claim this last point soon enough and snowball for the Graviton, things will be looking really good for them to potentially close it out, as interestingly enough, Kappa's actually going to stick to the Widowmaker.
Well, they have to be careful about this Graviton. They're probably going to try to be aggressive with it, but they already have the Transcendence ready. Dummy was able to hold on to that, and that was a massive Riptire coming in from Reach. Not only does the Transcendence counter out the Graviton, but so does the Tire. Reach will swap over to Soldier, and Ajax is 60% towards the next Nano that I imagine now he'll probably want to put onto Reach when he gets Tac Visor up, and perhaps it could go to Decod as well, as that has also been an option for them, especially on the Winston, but also now we've seen the Orisa as well.
And at the very least, for the side of Savages, they do have the Sound Barrier and Coalescence going into this next team fight. Here's enough. Derek is not going to make any swaps. He is going to stick to the Zarya, looking to potentially charge that Graviton again to close it out. But Capo now under Tracer will make things potentially a bit more difficult for the opposition. But the Pulse Bomb is going to secure the kill with the rest of his team on Tracer's pace. It's a 1-for-1 trade, as Decod is going to go down as well. Coalescence will come out, looking for the D-suit onto N64. And as they will get that first tech, Derek is going to find another kill, this time onto Reach. And maybe they can actually do it, as the Nano Boost is going to be used on to the Tracer. Kevster looking to do a lot, but Decod gets a kill onto Kayun, coming back from spawn on that Doomfist. And Kevster managing to stay alive with the help of said buff. Means that he's going to get the D-suit, but nobody on the point. What? Not quite able to
They
make
had
it.
people alive, man. They had people alive to try to get onto that and contest it. And we saw the Nano Boost, you know, it was just an unfortunate situation where there wasn't someone like Decod there to accept it. It was only Kevstar on the point, so it had to go out to the Tracer. Not really an ideal Nano Boost, unless, of course, you're a year ago playing for Selfless. I guess less than that now. And Defran is, you know, on Tracer. As you play that type of gameplay, we saw a lot of Nano Boost going over to Defran Tracer quite a lot back in the day. But, you know, other than that, it's not typically the best go-to approach. You know, they really would have liked to have put it on Decod there to just try to create some space, create some extra stalling time for the rest of everybody to come through, and then maybe try to take some kills and establish a foothold once again to make that hold. But, you know, once you lose that Nano Boost, there really isn't anybody that can go onto the point and really stay for, you know, a couple seconds that they really need to have people to come back from respawn with. So now we'll see attacks coming in for a third time now, Brunch. Last night's leftovers attacking first with a minute, as we saw 41 seconds, the final time for the Savages. And we've seen this type of defense before, an all-out tanks, just full aggressive defensive style, holding out very close on low ground, just hiding, waiting for the attacking team to come through.
And since there's no Hanzo, of course, being used, you don't really expect this kind of thing necessarily, but it won't quite find the kills. It will just push them away for now, and just buying time means that it matters all too much, because 40 seconds left on the clock. Already looking to get one tick, as Kevster gonna be able to split their attention for now. Hook does come through. N64 loses his mech in return. Ace's pace drops pretty low. Can he stay alive though? The help of his team, he will go down as Kevster finds that kill, and as a result, Capo still gets to retaliate with one of his own. Make that a second. Now onto that Tracer. Coalescence will keep his team alive. Not quite sure if it was really necessary, but maybe since he didn't have that healing resource available anymore, he wanted to make sure his team stays alive and safe for now.
Well, the pulse bomb got eaten. I mean, Kevster could have done it
Oh.
right there, but now they have to see if they can get onto the point, and I don't think it's... Oh, it's going to happen. Decod somehow flicks onto it with Ajax there as well. Now it's another opportunity. Kevster looking for redemption after the pulse bomb got eaten by Hui. He will fall. Soundbarrier comes out from Kalyun. We've seen him save the day several times over before, especially against Envision, and he does it again, just sealing the deal for the rest of his squad. But I think Hui made a massive play there to shut Kevster down, and we will see that first attack completely thwarted, and now I believe the Savages might have a shot here.
And it's been really amazing to watch them take these series to that third map, which could very well happen once again. They did it to Envision, they did it to Renegades. We'll see whether or not they can do it again to LNL, and more importantly, if they also can pick up a win. Of course, most important thing for them is that they get the win over Fulsen later on tonight in order to make it through that group stages. But things are looking good considering the time they have available, and now I'm just really curious to see whether or not we'll see anything different from the defensive side, because so far they seem to be running pretty much the same comp.
Incoming in 30 seconds.
So again, last night's leftovers looking for that same type of hold and going against a tank comp like this that's coming out of the Savages. This is a slightly different look because typically we see Capo on the Tracer, but he's going to go instead with the Roadhog. So it is slightly different. It brings a different element. You know, you do have that pick potential, obviously not through the one clips and everything, but instead through the chain hook, pulling someone out. You know, if you pull really kind of anybody with that Roadhog, that's almost solidifying a pick. If you can find a way to just pull someone outside of that shield, you can make it happen.
And considering the fact that they will have to force the defensive side onto the point, that might just happen, but already 2 kills, both on the supports actually here, coming out of the defensive side for LNL. It's going to be Reach and Kevster popping off, but especially Reach, who has been an absolute menace on that Junkrat. And I definitely like this composition for Savages because they only need to get 1 tick, so if they can force the opposition to go in a tough position, it will mean that they might eventually snowball it into a cap and win. But now with 55 seconds remaining, Reach will look to charge up their Riptire, and if he gets those kills off of it, might just stop them completely.
A lot of pressure initially coming out from Reach, but Ajax falls early, and now coming back and just trying to kind of pull away from it. They really have to buy time for this tire to find something. They're going to send it in as Kevster finds a pick on the Plasma Snake. They need to try to find anything, but Capo shuts it down.
And with that, it will be another kill coming out of Hui, who hunts him down in the meantime. And N64 still looks to retaliate. Transcendence is available for Dummy. And can it secure the kill? So far, it's looking good as Decod gets on into Capo. N64 still fragging out, gets the hook. And with the whole hog, it's going to push everyone away. Even Kevster claiming Kayun. And with 12 seconds remaining, this is looking like we might actually go to that third map. But what a draw is. Plasma Snake will go down again. And one final desperate attempt might be coming out. Hui, though, gets hooked, and as a result, it will be the draw.
So we will go into a map number 3 regardless, but it's 1 up, even still for last night's leftovers. Ace of Spades tried to go for an Earthshatter at the end, but was shut down. N64 made a couple of really impactful plays. We talked about, you know, the Roadhog coming into that, but it was N64's Roadhog that had the major impact. Capo had some, but a lot less of an effect. And Reach, you know, that Riptire was massive from him.
And we will be moving on to a short break, but don't go